Hi guys, my name is Miss Alex and I work at the Fairlawn Library. I used to work at the Bergenfield Library, and this is Russell.
Hello, I work at the Bergenfield Library and Maywood Library and Englewood Library on Sundays.
So we are both very involved in the library world. We love our library communities, and we are happy that we are able to serve you guys via digital platforms. So today, Russ and I are going to share one of our other favorite hobbies besides reading, which is gaming. So we are going to share some cool games. We have on both sides of us, and all of these games are literary or book or like word related. So if you enjoy reading, you might enjoy these kinds of games. And if not, that's okay too. But we wanted to share them with you. And we're going to tell you the ages, the game time, and how many players, and a little review of the game. And if you guys have any questions, you can just let us know in the comments below. So let's get right into it. I guess I'll start. And the first one I'll start with is, oh gosh, a bit of a simpler game. So this is called
Classic.
Classic. It's Categories. So Categories is, let's see my little thing. Oh gosh.
I think it's in the front.
Oh, it's right on the front there. It's ages 13 and up, 2 to 4 teams. And this game can last any amount of time as long as you want to keep playing. But basically you have just a little list, and we're not going to show you every game just so it's a little quicker. But you have a list and you have a dice, and you basically roll the dice, and whatever letter it lands on, you have to answer certain questions to make words with that. So for example, on the back of this paper I already used, the word was T, so it was like names, words, something related to food, animals, things like that. So you have to list everything with that letter, and once the timer runs out, whoever has the most gets the most points. So this game is a fun one. I really love this game. As you can tell, the box is pretty beat up. I babysit sometimes, and this is a great babysitting game just because it provides a little bit of fun but also education, just because it has to do with thinking up things on the spot. So I like this game a lot. I guess we can maybe rate these games too. So I kind of scale of 1 to 10. I would say it's probably about like a 6 in my book. It's pretty fun, but I like some other games more. So have you ever played Categories?
Yeah, I have. The parish that I go to has these youth ministry events, and Categories comes up a lot.
Cool. So yeah, so Categories is one of our games that we have. All right, you want to take the next one?
One thing you should know about Miss Alex, she's a big Sherlock Holmes fan, as evidenced by her Sherlock Holmes collection of stories. There you go. Nice gilded pages, really nice. This is why I'm saying that, because we enjoy playing Beyond Baker Street, which is a game that plays 2 to 4 players within 30 minutes or so. Really quick game. Basically, you're the Baker Street irregulars trying to solve the case before Sherlock Holmes does, and he's a lot smarter than you are. But you two together should be able to outsmart Sherlock Holmes and get to the criminal and the place that the crime happened and the motive behind that crime within a certain time period. So basically, you have a short amount of time and so many cards and clues, and you can't see the clues that are in your hand. Your partner can, and you can see your partner's clues. So you have to give each other kind of hints to solve the mystery together. So you have to cooperatively work together to outsmart Sherlock Holmes and get to the bottom of the crime as quickly as possible. It's a fun game. It's recommended for ages 10 and up. It is really fast-paced and does bend your brain a little. So very much recommended by both of us. I'd say, well, I don't know, it's on a higher scale, like an 8 out of 10, you would say?
Yeah, about an 8 out of 10. And so the games Russ is showing are a little more difficulty, or a little more difficult complexity-wise, and then mine are a little on the easier side. So just keep that in mind too. If you're a beginner to games, you might want to stick with some more of the stuff that I'm recommending, or if you're a seasoned expert with gaming, you might want to stick with more of his. But that being said, they're all fun and great to try.
Yeah, the learning curve isn't too steep on Beyond Baker Street.
Yeah, no,
so if you want to dive in to some of the more advanced games, this would be a good place to start.
All right, so our next one is last word. Very similar to categories in the sense that it's a verbal kind of game with words. So basically, you have a letter and you have a category, and everybody has to say something in that category. So, for example, on the back of the box, it says vegetables, and the letter is C. So you could say carrots, cauliflower, so on and so forth. And the last person to say something before somebody messes up gets a point. And so it's a pretty fun game. There's usually like a timer, or you can play without the timer. On the back here, it says it's for 2 to 8 players, ages 14 to adult, and 35 minutes. I've played both this and categories with younger. Like I said, I do some babysitting, so I've done both of these with younger kids around ages 10 and 9, and they loved it. So it definitely plays a bunch of different ages. And this one, like I said, is kind of funny because you're thinking on the spot and saying it out loud, whereas with categories, you write it down. So it can provide for some funny mess ups if somebody can't think of something on the spot. So that is last word. And
so there is a game that's very popular amongst the Bergenfield crew. They have the young adults kind of have gaming weekends, and one game they like to play is Werewolf, and it is a social deduction game. This is the word version of the social deduction game, also available at Bergenfield Library. So this game plays 4 to 10 players within like 10 minutes or so, and it's a werewolf variant on 20 questions. So there's an app that you install on your phone, and it assigns all the roles to you, and then we have the roles in here as well. But basically, you could play this with a deck of cards, essentially. Just that all the roles... Yeah, that's the WereWords app. So there is somebody who's the mayor, and the mayor can only answer in yes or no questions, but the mayor also has a hidden role that nobody else at the table knows, unless, there's a faction of werewolves that are trying to have everyone misled. So they're misleading the group into not guessing the word that you would play 21 questions to solve. But everybody else at the table is a villager, and there's other powers. But basically, the villagers have to guess the word, and the werewolves don't want them to guess the word. So the mayor could be a werewolf and misleading the whole group by saying yes, no, or maybe to these questions. And it plays fairly quickly. It's a really fun social game. If you're kind of getting into games, it's a nice social deduction game. Very light on rules. And like I said, it basically plays like 20 questions, but it's a lot more thematic with the werewolf world. But definitely would recommend it. And the age range they recommend here is 8 and up. Out of 10.
Oh, and I forgot your last word too.
Yeah.
Out of 10, I really like WereWords a lot, especially if you're playing with a bigger group. It's great. So I would say probably like a 7 out of 10 for me. I tend to be pretty good at the game, so that's why I kind of rate it a little higher. I tend to get
I don't know. I would go a little lower, like 6, just because like I'm more into advanced kind of games that have a bit more crunchiness to them. Yeah. But it's a good, fun game.
And last word I would say is also about a 6, at least for me personally. All right. Oops, sorry, got a little something on the screen there.
And what's your next one?
My next one is another similar game, and that is Apples to Apples. So this is a classic game. Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of you guys might have played it, but basically there is one green card in the middle that's usually like an adjective. So example on the back of the box is nauseating, and then players have a handful of red cards that you use to describe the word. So for example, they have making the bed, all you can eat buffets, plastic surgery, the Stone Age. So you're supposed to put down a funny card that kind of goes with the prompt in the middle. And then there's a judge who votes and decides whose is the funniest or whose makes the most sense. It kind of depends what group of people you're playing with. But this game is for 4 to 8 players, ages 12 and up. And this is a very great family game or group game. They have an Apples to Apples Junior, so if you're playing with younger kids, this is just the regular version. But yeah, it's pretty fun. This is a little portable case, so you can take it with you. And I would say this is probably about a rating of a 7 for me. I like this one a lot because it requires a little more thinking. But yeah, pretty fun game. It's similar to Cards Against Humanity, but on a family or friendly scale. So, all right. What's your next one?
Okay, so this one is Alex and I's favorite word game. We've played this a lot. It's a Mensa Select game called Letter Tycoon, and it gives you some theme to play around, but basically you're all playing a card game of Scrabble, essentially. You have 7 cards, and you have to spell the longest word, and when you spell words, you get money, and you buy patents, which anytime somebody plays that letter in their word, you get money from the bank. So it mixes a bit of capitalism with your Scrabble. And it is incredibly fun. We've played many games of this. I would rank it like, I don't know, like 9, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's plays for 30 to 45 minutes, ages 8 and up, 2 to 5 players. And it kind of works for any kind of group size. So I would highly recommend this game.
Yeah, I would rate it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Pretty great. And so, like Russell mentioned, it is very similar to a classic game everyone should know. If you don't know, I'm disappointed now. This is Scrabble. I have the deluxe version because Scrabble is one of my favorite all-time games. It is deluxe version basically just has little placements so your tiles don't move. But I grew up playing this game with my family. It's definitely a great family game. It's a great friend game. It is, let's see if it says on here how many people. I don't think it says on here.
It's 4, right?
Yeah, so it's 4 people. Oh, actually, there it is on the front. It is 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. The only problem is this game can take a bit of time, especially if you're my family and we tend to question each other's legitimacy with words. So sometimes people try to throw in some words that aren't quite right or aren't spelled correctly. And
that's why you have the Scrabble
Yes.
dictionary.
So, of course, being librarians, we love books and checking resources and facts. So I have a Scrabble dictionary on hand for whenever I play with my friends and family. And this is a great game. I would say this is up there with Letter Tycoon. I think it's probably one of the reasons why I love Letter Tycoon so much. So I would say this is a 9 out of 10 for me. And because I like it so much, we also have some other versions. This is Scrabble Slam and Scrabble Catchphrase. And both of these are variants. Basically, catchphrase you play with friends and you pass it back and forth trying to describe the word. And then Scrabble Slam, you have cards that are the letters and you put them down to spell the words. Similar to Letter Tycoon, actually. And both of these are kind of variants of Scrabble that get played a lot in our household as well. Scrabble Slam is 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. And Catchphrase is just a kind of game you can play with anyone. I would say probably ages 8 and up. And both of these, depend on time again with how many people you're playing with and how intense you're getting with the game. But the whole Scrabble family, I would say, is about an 8 or a 9 for me.
Good foundation for any kind of word games.
And it kind of, if you're just starting your gaming collection, definitely Scrabble, is a good game to have in there. And especially not just for fun, but like I said, educational purposes too. You can use it to practice spelling with kids. And then, it's just fun.
Letter Tycoon lets you pick the dictionary, which is always fun. The next one is really neat. It's Tim Fowers is the designer. Tim Fowler Games. He makes a bunch of different kinds of games. One of them is an all-time classic in the advanced gaming community called Paperback. But I prefer Hardback, which looks like a stack of books. It's really great. And there's the title there. Basically, you have a number of cards, and your goal is to spell words with said cards. So again, kind of similar in that you're using these cards to spell out the longest word possible and get as much rewards and points as possible. But the difference here is it is more of a deck builder. And for those of you who don't know what that means, you draft cards, you draw them into your hand from a selection on the table, and then build up a deck of letters that then can spell various words and get you a certain number of points. This game plays 2 to 5 players, 45 to 60 minutes, ages 10 and up, and it's a very engrossing game, especially if you like word games like we do. I would say, I don't know, a 7?
I would say an 8 for
An 8?
me.
Yeah,
I
higher
like
for
it.
you?
I like hardback a lot. Yeah, and again, similar to Scrabble or all of these kind of word games in general, sometimes the gameplay can tend to go on a little more if it involves more thinking, or if you're playing with younger kids, or maybe people who don't play word games as much, or isn't as much into the literary field as you are. So definitely, take that with a grain of salt and decide if it's right for you and for your family or friends. But like I said, we tend to like these games a lot. I have one that is similar to Letter Tycoon, and all of these games are all kind of similar, I guess, in general. But Word Domination is, again, another game where you are spelling out words with little tiles.
But with a twist.
With a twist. Basically, oh gosh, get back in there. All right. So basically, you are trying to use all the little tiles to spell out words and
map control.
Yeah, map control. It's kind of like not like Catan and like domination wise, but like.
Oh, well, I mean, you're taking over a map with words.
Yeah.
And you're super villains, I guess, stealing things from museums.
It's a cute little thing. But yeah, it's 2 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes, ages 12 and up. And yeah, you're basically building a vocabulary while building your
Dominion,
yeah, I guess. And it's a really fun little game. Again, one of the ones that can take a little bit longer. But I like it. I would say this one is probably about like a 6 or 7 for me.
I would say closer to 6.
Yeah, it's similar to our other games that we like a lot, but
we haven't played it as often.
But we haven't played it as often. We tend to grab the other ones a little more.
I'm sure it would grow on me if I played it more.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a fun game, especially if you like word games. It's definitely worth trying.
Actually, Alex, this is a favorite of yours, Thunderdome. Basically, well, I guess you have themes and you have to build puns on it.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of like a pun generator. It gives you a theme and something related to it, and then you have to come up with the pun for it.
Yeah. You have to be quick on your feet.
Yeah, this game is a little difficult to play with people who don't enjoy puns as much as I do, just because it's harder for them to come up with it on the spot. But it is very fun if you have a group of friends that love puns and are punny. What's the ages? And
the ages 12 and up, 3 or more players. And this could go on forever. Yes. It's one of those kind of apples to apples-esque kind of games where there's a judge and then you kind of score based on how funny they are. Yeah. And you could play into the middle of the night if you wanted to.
But yeah, this one is definitely more of a niche game. I tend to not get it to the table as much just because people don't like puns as much as I do. I can sometimes drag him into the game. But definitely for those who like a good laugh. If you like dad jokes, you would love Thunderdome.
I'm just going to go with a neutral 5. But you would rank this higher.
I don't get to play it as much as I would like, but I would say it's probably about like a 7 for me. When I do get to play it with its right group of people, very funny.
Definitely goes in her stack.
All right. Do you want to do one of yours? I have 2 more over here.
I guess this one is my kind of personal favorite because I'm a big, you can't see it, Shakespeare nerd. It's Shakespeare Deaths. Basically, if you've ever played the card game War, it's like a 7 beats a 6 and an 8 beats a 7. But basically, there are so many cards, and they all have different kinds of deaths. Hold on, these are all instructional. Okay, so Hamlet has a certain kind of quality to him.
There you go.
Yeah. So, you basically say, okay, I challenge you on gore and brutality. And if you know Shakespeare, Hamlet died pretty brutally, all his tragedies, and this tragic hero especially kind of gets stabbed and poisoned in a sword fight. So he ranks pretty high in that category. So basically you'll face off against somebody, you'll put them face down, and then you'll reveal at the same time, and it's like, oh, Hamlet beats Ophelia's death because she drowned off stage, and they talk about it afterwards. So then you just keep comparing cards, and it's a fairly simple game. Person who takes the whole stack is the winner, and it plays 2 to more players. There's 32 cards in a deck, so I mean, there's only so many you can play with until you run out of cards. I mean, like I can't imagine playing with 32 people,
No.
and then it's like everybody has one card. But then eventually it'll narrow down to 2 people, and they'll be playing with this deck of 32 cards between them, and it gets real fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a Shakespeare nerd like I am.
Yeah, this is again a pretty niche game if you like Shakespeare or like classics and things like that. Pretty fun. A little gory, some of the images, so I wouldn't recommend for younger.
I know, it's just the characters.
Well, some of them are.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Clifford's got a sword through his stomach, so.
But so that's another game that we tend to enjoy. What would you rate it out of 10?
Oh, well, just because of my own biases, I'd rate it out of 10.
You rate 10 out of 10?
I like it.
Yeah?
I really like it. It's a fun little filler game.
Yeah, it's a quick game, but it's fun. I'd probably rate it like an 8 out of 10. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
it's a cute, bad themed game. Another themed game we have is Man Bites Dog. And this one you are making headlines, or you're using headlines to kind of make a little. You're making headlines for the little stories that kind of pop up. And this is ages 8 and up, 2 to 6 players. And it's a fun little game. I've played it once before with a friend. This is our copy. We actually haven't opened it yet, so this is our next one. We have to get to the table, maybe after this video. But yeah, it's a fun little game. Again, it's kind of niche in the sense that you have to really enjoy.
Make your own fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like a make your own fun kind of game. It's not like a preset game like some of the others. And I think that tends to be the theme with a lot of these literary games is you're kind of using your imagination and your words, which I really like, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. But yeah, I'd say this is a fun game. The one time I played it, I would say probably like a 6 out of 10.
Well, I think maybe once in the gaming group. Yeah. I'd say yeah.
Like a 6 out of 10. Probably.
Like 6 out of 10.
Yeah, we'll have to play again before we can give our official rating. All right, and you have
okay, well, this one is great for us librarians because aside from being a huge Shakespeare nerd, I'm also kind of a fantasy fiction kind of nerd, and this is the ultimate everything. It's a big box, has a lot of components. Essentially, you are librarians in a fantasy universe with elves and dwarves and all kinds of fictional creatures, and they're all building a grand library collection. And you have books that go from A to Z, and there are many different places where you can acquire them. And there are banned books, and there are praised, acclaimed authors for different kinds of genres. And so you are going throughout this medieval fantasy realm and collecting as many titles as you can in order, alphabetical order. And that's one thing that our librarian comrades can relate to, is when something's out of order, we go bonkers. So as will the fictional creatures within Ex Libris in the Grand Library, they'll go nuts if Z comes before A, and you'll lose a lot of points. So you have to keep your stacks tidy and well curated to succeed in this game. And I'd say this is a bit more advanced. It recommends ages 10 and up. It plays 1 to 4 players, so there is a solo mode, and plays within 45 minutes. I'd say that's about accurate when we played it, and it was something I very much enjoyed. I don't know about you, Alex, but out of 10, I don't know. I like the more rules-heavy kind of games. This is a worker placement for people who are gamers. Basically, you place a worker and you go to that store and you acquire those books. I would say, I don't know, 8 out of 10.
I would say 9 out of 10 for me. I really like this one a lot. It's one we don't get to the table as much as I would like, but it is really fun, and especially for us library workers, it is very close to home. And then the last game we have to show you guys, and we'll wrap this thing up, is the game Synapses. So this game I actually got when I went to Book Expo, and basically it is similar to some of the other games where you're like building. So you have what's your story about, and it's when and where does the story take place, or different kind of placement cards that gives you ideas. And then you also have usually some kind of theme or something. So you get a card and this says fish, so fishing pole, fishnet, jellyfish, swordfish, or sweatpants, sweater. So it gives you kind of like a starter topic. Then you also get a connector, so has, had, have, or things like that. And then you also get a spark. So your sentence comes from your vampire story, or your story is about a mom who, can't find her child or something. So it's basically a story building game. It's really good if you love to write, or if you are working with kids on learning how to write stories. There's also a nice little instruction pamphlet that kind of gives you some ideas. You can change up the variation of how you draw your cards, but they're very, very good for writing stories and just kind of general gameplay. If you like to kind of build little stories and see who can come up with the funniest story on the spot.
So you could like improvise.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an improv game with cards, though. It's really fun. There's another one that this brand, Storymatic, makes called Rememory, which is similar. You have little topics you pick, and then you have to tell a memory. Very fun also. This game, I don't know if it even has really ages on it. Yeah, it's kind of just like a general age thing. Here, ages 10 and up, 1 to 6 players. So yeah, but again, this is something you can play with more than that. But it's really fun. I would say this one's probably about like a 7 for me, just because we both enjoy writing as well. And it's fun to kind of make our own little stories using this game. And
I'd say 6 out of 10. You need the right group.
Yeah, you definitely need the right group. This is something I hopefully want to use with my writing group that I do with the library to help kind of jumpstart some of their story ideas. But it's a fun little game if you enjoy literary things. So I think that is all of our games that we have to show you guys.
Word related, anyway.
Yeah, word, book related, things like that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a little bit on the longer side. You can tell we really like games and words. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this might encourage you to try some different games that maybe aren't usually up your alley. And if you've never gotten into the gaming world, hopefully this will help kind of be your Kickstarter. So we hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time.